The pastors are regarded as the closest to deities. The imams are seen as the closest to deities, and they now have so much power. It's even as bad to the point where a pastor can decide that two people are not compatible for marriage, and both families are ready to go to war to make sure that doesn't happen, because they had good food, they had good water, they had good weather, and they had natural resources around them. You name it, gold, copper, iron, they had everything. So there was no need for them to even bother about what's happening somewhere else. That was how comfortable they were. Of course, until when colonialism came and then everything changed. But you get the gist. Have you ever wondered why so many African nations decided against invading other countries? Well, join me as we dive into 3 reasons why this might be a possibility. Now, I must say, due to the complexity and diversity of the continent, I'm going to be focusing strictly on the western and central part of Africa. Let's get into the video. Point number 1, power. Contrary to the way Europeans viewed power as conquering, land or people, Africans, on the other hand, they had a very unique way of seeing power. They viewed power as closeness to deity. Power is conceived by the Africans as something pertaining to the divine. And this can be seen in the beginning. The older people were viewed as, as the ones that are the wise ones. Because the older you were in age, according to the ancient Africans, they viewed you as closer to deities or closer to the gods that they were serving then. And that was why people that are older are viewed as wise. They are viewed as when you have a problem, you go to someone that's older in your family to counsel you. It was from that mentality of, because you are older, they view you as you are closer to a deity. Even the kings in those times, they had council of elders, which comprises of older men and older women. And the king, as much power as the king had, the king could not take any decision without consulting his council of elders. There's even the story of an explorer, an European explorer that came to Africa, and he wanted to see the king. He had to wait for 2 weeks because the council of elders were not available, and the king just could not see him without the council of elders. But the Europeans, they are used to being, once you're a king, you have the veto power to do whatever you want. The king, of course, yes, he was the king, but he needed the council of elders to be present before he could make any decision. Even back then in religion, Africa, they worship gods like Obatala or Shango in the Yoruba land, of course. And people that they went to, or people that they perceived as those that were closer to these gods, were people that we call, the Babalawos, or they call them Yemoja, for example, in the Yoruba land, or they call them Yeyoshun. People like that, they were perceived as people that were closer to the deity, and they had so much power. People revered them a lot because there was this perception that the closer you are to the gods, or the closer you are perceived to be to a deity, the more power you have. And you can also see it in another culture. Let's say the Igbos, for example. They have the god of Amadiora, and they have people that they call the native doctors. Those are the ones that are perceived as closest to the deity, and those people have so much power, and they even go to them for counseling. They go to them to seek refuge. So that was the perception of Africans back then. And you can still see this mentality still play out in modern African culture. For example, during colonialism, when Christianity and Islam was introduced, which slowly began to replace the traditional religions in Africa, you will see the mentality is still there. Because pastors and imams, they were the ones that now took over the role, or took over the mantle from the Babalawos and the Ijeyeoshuns and the native doctors. Now the pastors are regarded as the closest to deities. The imams are seen as the closest to deities, and they now have so much power. It's even as bad to the point where a pastor can decide that two people are not compatible for marriage, and both families are ready to go to war to make sure that doesn't happen. That is how much power these pastors have, or the people that are perceived are closest to deities. That is how much power they wield. So once an African can perceive that you are closer, or you have that much closeness to the deity, they automatically give you that much power. That is the mentality. So it's not a new concept. It's something that has been engraved for donkey years and centuries. Now you can debate in the comments below if that is morally right or wrong. And the next point is access to natural resources. Now, just the way Americans think right now, they feel like the world revolves around them, and they barely even know what is happening in the other countries. They just believe in what is happening in their country, and they think that is how the whole world operates. That was the typical African mentality back then. because they didn't see the need to concern themselves with what was happening in another continent or in other places, because they had good food, they had good water, they had good weather, and they had natural resources around them. You name it, gold, copper, iron, they had everything. So there was no need for them to even bother about what's happening somewhere else. That was how comfortable they were. Of course, until when colonialism came and then everything changed. But you get the gist. I mean, look at what this article says. Iron produced in many parts of Africa for a long time remained superior in quality to unforged raw iron from Europe. West Africans were well aware of the excellence of their iron, as we see in their response to the availability of iron coming from Europe in the 15th to 18th century CE. Not only did Africans prefer the product of their own smelters and smiths in actually tool making, but the Portuguese transported it around the coast to Guinea and Senegal to exchange for other products. So this is how much comfortable Africans were with their own product. They didn't see the need to invade other people. They didn't really see the need to concern themselves with other people's businesses, because they were okay. They had everything they wanted in their disposal. It was even Europeans that were even coming to Africans to take their products and sell to other people. That was how comfortable the Africans were back then. They didn't see that there was no reason for them to invade other people's privacy, because they believed that what they were producing was the best and was sufficient for them to be okay, to be sustainable. They were very, very comfortable back then. And of course, the next point, religion. While this was how Europeans view religion, first, it must espouse a universal superhuman order that is true always and everywhere. Second, it must insist on spreading this belief to everyone. In other words, it must be universal and missionary. The best known religions of history, such as Islam and Buddhism, are universal and missionary. The majority of ancient religions were local and exclusive. Their followers believed in local deities and spirits and had no interest in converting the entire human race. So contrary to how the Europeans viewed religion as a universal thing that has to be spread to everyone has to believe it, Africans, on the other hand, they had no business spreading their religion to anyone. As a matter of fact, they practice something called idiosyncrasy, which simply means Africans believe that religion is a mode of a behavior or way of thought peculiar to an individual. You can also say that they saw religion as something that was peculiar to a certain ethnic group. So there was no need for them to spread it to someone else, because they believed in the uniqueness of each and every one, of each and every group. And that was how Africans saw religion. And also, due to the complexity and diversity of the continent, Africans did not see religion as a global vision. Now, while I know that there's always more to a story, and I encourage you guys to do your own research, do your findings, and let us discuss it in the comments below. And also, if you have more reasons why you think Africans decided not to invade others, of course, let's talk about it in the comments below. And if you like more videos like this, or you want to know why Africans were chosen for enslavement over others, then click on this video here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.